So I wanted to have this chat with you because at Healers of Perth, the whole point of it really is just try and find practitioners that do things differently, whether it be mainstream or alternative. And I'd obviously come across you a little while ago and found that you were probably one of the first people in the alternative space that was making some sense, rather than perhaps, might have...
I'm impressed.
Or at
I'm
least,
glad to hear that.
yeah, or at least it certainly broke through some of the presumptions that people might have about, at least I might have had, about alternative medicine. So I wanted to have a chat with you about really, first off, I understand how someone might be a physio like myself. You play sport, you get injured, you see a physio and you go, oh, okay, like it's like a normal almost pathway that you kind of can see early on. How did you see, you've gotten into the world of wellbeing, and I guess you'd call yourself wellbeing consultant. Seems like a very different journey. How did you first enter into that sort of space or knowledge?
Yeah. I mean, wellbeing consultant sort of rounds out many things that I do. And I do like to change, and I love the novelty in my career path and in the different things that I can offer. So I guess from a young age, around 15, was when my eldest brother, who's 3 years old at the time, had a serious car accident. He was on a scooter and he was T-boned, and him and a friend, kind of that kick started like a very long journey with mental and physical pain, so chronic pain in his body and a lot of like mental illness. So from about 15, I would say that's when I started to get a little bit more serious around my self-study and that pathway to want to understand not only him and how to help and support him, my brother, but also like myself. Like I saw that secondary effect of trauma, which back then I had no idea that that's what that was. But I started to sort of see that I wasn't coping so well. So that was probably when I started getting far more interested in well-being, meditation, the holistic side of things, energy medicine, and started getting more curious.
For anyone that hasn't delved into that sort of area at all, what do you say when people are first, hearing about meditation, particularly to, those who might be considered skeptics or just simply unaware of what's going on in that space? Like, how do you tend to talk to someone that is like, that doesn't sound like up my kind of avenue?
Yeah, well, they're my favourite sort of people.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I obviously do a lot of work with not-for-profit, so health promotion is my jam now. But really, it comes down to a couple of things. One is education, and the second thing is awareness. Well, probably education, awareness, and access, which we're fortunate here in Perth and WA, Australia-wide, to have a lot of access to resources. So if you're skeptical, that's good. I mean, that shows that you kind of want to find out more information. You're more likely to dive deeper. I have been skeptical my entire journey through, spiritual and alternative healing practices. I think that's what's helped me dive so deep into it, because I guess until I've had my own experiences with something, well, it doesn't give me any legs to stand on. I'm not just going to follow it blindly.
So you when you first started getting involved in meditation, what was it like when do you remember what it was like when you were first just sort of getting into, again, the different aspects, but let's just say maybe meditation? Do you remember what that was like when you were first sort of starting that journey?
Yeah, so probably my first entry point to meditation was through religion. So when I was little, we went to a Catholic school just because it was a great school that was close and nearby to our family home. But for whatever reason, my parents weren't religious, they're not into it. I was really into religion from a young age.
Wow.
So I would take myself to church all the time, and got like really invested in the process. And for me, it was just like, again, that curiosity, but also I found the space, as in going into a church, really peaceful and relaxing, and the reverence for me was like quite addictive. So that gateway was probably prayer at that time. And then again, when I was around that 15, 16 mark, I just expanded that curiosity into the realms of Buddhism. So I remember going to like Buddha's birthday, which was kind of in the city. They had the big blow up Buddhas, but they did have monks walking around, and I would just, sit in the tents and just listen to them talk. I'm someone who learns by association, so naturally you can imagine my brain just trying to like understand the synergies or the similarities between prayer, meditation, and also how that genuinely made me feel, which was peaceful.
So for you, like, do you think from that the sound of things, sometimes you feel like people are almost born to be a certain thing, or sort of they're aligned with something very early on. Again, when you're a young kid, maybe you know you want to be a doctor and you be a doctor, or you know something about the world and how you fit into it. You sort of follow that. Do you feel that, or do you find that people either have that experience that you've had, or can they come across it again, not through brute force necessarily, but do you feel like you need to have had that kind of openness to it from a young age, or can anyone sort of actually dive into this realm?
Yeah, it's I don't know so much that we're like born to sort of be certain things, but we're definitely born into certain environments that create needs. And I think if we're being honest with ourselves and if we're honest with what those needs are, then we do seek them out and that forms our path. So it may seem that we've always been destined for something, but really we're always destined to sort of seek and fulfill those needs in a way. So for me, that was obviously something greater through faith and religion. And then that kind of consolidated when obviously there was trauma in our family unit. So I guess for other people listening, like you will seek out what you need if you're being honest with yourself. So I think meditation and perhaps that spiritual curiosity will come in at a time when they need it.
Perhaps too personal. But do you know what you felt like you needed then as a kid searching for that faith? You said you found peace into those areas.
Probably meaning, like in times of trauma and uncertainty. And if I look back now, my brother unfortunately passed away in 2018. That was by suicide. It was a 10-year long journey of chronic pain, mental illness. We saw so many different doctors as a family. We were all part of that process with him, and no one could figure out what was wrong. I mean, the brain and brain injury is still quite vague. It's exciting to see some progression in those areas. But I think for me at that time, I was very helpless and very powerless is what I felt to watching someone that I love suffer. And so whilst I was sort of free falling, that spirituality or that sense of curiosity and making meaning was just something to kind of anchor me and to hold on to. And it made me feel good.
So did you end up having some kind of the eureka moment which made you think to yourself, yep, that's it, I'm sort of going all in? Or was this a collection of experiences that you had that were slowly pushing you one direction?
Well, I mean, I had that curiosity as a young child, so it was building. That sort of like foundation became much stronger over that 10 years. So I was 25 or so, 25, 26 when my brother passed away. Interestingly, that support through philosophy was there for me. But also I had developed a community of really positive and supportive people through that meditation environment. So that, again, was the secondary benefits of people who were strong, people who were positive, people who were curious. So that really supported me through his passing. But then interestingly in 2020, when all the COVID stuff was happening, I ended up falling down the rabbit hole of more science-based inquiry, just following a lot of skeptics. And I sort of threw out a lot of my spiritual beliefs for a while. Like I kind of threw them out. I was like, there's a lot of stuff in here that can't be known for sure. It's bullshit in a way. And I don't know why that happened, but over that year, 2 years of sort of like not engaging in that practice, not engaging in my meditation, not allowing that wonder and awe and a lot of the journaling that I was doing was actually kind of depressing for me. I sort of felt like I lost my spark a little bit. But again, I had the awareness to watch it kind of happening. And then that was probably the aha moment when I sort of reclaimed that for myself and was like, no, this is actually really good for me, works for me, it empowers me, and it's now part of my my toolkit.
So that skepticism probably ended up strengthening, I guess, your original or earlier beliefs and practices to some degree.
So it kind of like came back in and helped me sort of consolidate what I know to be true and to really own my own lived experiences.
So again, Healers of Perth is all about people have lots of different problems that they're dealing with, and there's so many different ways to try and fix and solve and help things. And for yourself, like the pathway you've gone down, what are the types of people that might benefit from looking at the things you've done? And perhaps we might speak a little bit more on like the type of meditation that you've practiced more in, and then some of the other features that you've gone into. But yeah, what kinds of people actually can potentially benefit from this? Because when you get a broken arm, you know where you're going. When something else goes on, where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, I do a lot of work in the not-for-profit space, as I mentioned, but I also do a lot of one-to-one coaching and mentoring. And people have called me all sorts of names, a counselor, a life coach, a mentor, a friend. It doesn't really faze me. But what I've noticed about my role in those one-to-one situations is that people will come to me because they are aware that I have that those tools around meditation, mindfulness, journaling, and I've been talking about these topics for a long time now. They'll usually come to see me when they are at a point of change. They're ready for some change in their life. Sometimes they don't even know what. They don't have a direction. They just know that something needs to change. They want to feel better. They want to achieve some goals in their life. They will usually see me in conjunction with a psychologist, their GP, other professionals who perhaps aren't offering that holistic point of view, that philosophical approach. I mean, a lot of psychologists now do mindfulness, but again, so they'll usually come to see me when they're wanting to develop those skills in a bit more detail, and also to talk a little bit more openly about spirituality without feeling like, I guess, a bit of a spiritual stigma, like that it's silly or it's stupid. I think it's interesting because not many people are that religious anymore. I wouldn't say I'm super religious. I'm always curious in different forms of religion, and how we make meaning because of my own journey. But again, I think if people aren't going into those reverent spaces and being curious about different philosophy, so I'm someone they can seek out who will listen and not judge.
Okay, so again, do you sort of said there people might see other practitioners of different kinds whilst also seeing you, and is that common? Is that what you sort of recommend, or again, that doesn't matter? You don't have any recommendations. It's just how you naturally see a lot of people.
It depends on that individual and what they're going through. I usually recommend it because, again, like we all get along with different people very differently. We gel with different modalities and theories. Even for myself, I went to do EMDR recently in the past year with a clinical psych because I wanted to understand the modality. I wanted to go through it, have my own experiences, to understand if that's something that I could benefit from. So I always recommend for people, if they have the access and the ability, to try and see what works for them. Ultimately, you'll know what works for you because you'll see that change come in and that self-satisfaction of being able to achieve your goals.
So what are some of the things that you might do with someone? So if I'm coming to you with an issue, again, what might be like a typical issue as well, but yeah, what sort of things might we do in order to sort of help what it is that I'm currently dealing with?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a range of different things that I'll offer depending on what that person wants, and I'll sort of put out these different techniques and let them play to see what they're interested in. Sometimes it's mindfulness, and we'll talk about the principles of mindfulness through a scientific lens, through a Buddhist lens, and then we'll talk about how they can apply that to their life. So we'll actually practice those different techniques and sit one-to-one in guided meditation to see how they can go deeper into that practice. And that's really good for not just regulating your nervous system, which we hear a lot about. Breath work and meditation regulate the nervous system. That does give you a level of control over the body, but also regulating your attention. So for a lot of us, we don't have that control over our thoughts. The thoughts are going scattered, overthinking. Being able to practice meditation and understand the theory and the discipline behind it can give you that ability to regulate your thoughts. So again, that kind of top-down, bottom-up approach. Another technique I like is journaling. I do a lot of therapeutic journaling. It's something that I've done over my lifetime. And I find that perhaps for those who aren't ready for meditation, it can be pretty spooky. Like for a lot of people to sit there and close their eyes, particularly if they have a background in trauma, that can be too intense. Quite terrifying to, number one, sit by yourself and sit with your thoughts, especially if they're really dark. And number two, to come into the body and like suddenly stop, stop all the distractions, close your eyes, and see the alarm system of the body kind of shout at you for the first time. So for some people, I recommend journaling, and that's how I see it. It's like the relationship you have with that journal is a relationship you have with yourself. So it's kind of a different environment to begin to connect with you. So, transcribing your thoughts, eyes open, just transcribing what you hear, setting time aside to just sit and self-reflect. But again, that journaling practice will then help those individuals be able to sit in a meditation. So therapeutic journaling, the mindfulness and the meditation.
And just even with those, so like when someone starts the process of whether it be the mindful journaling, if I'm saying that correctly, therapeutic journaling, and then starting to get into meditation, what sort of things might they experience, particularly in those early stages? Because I'm guessing it's probably quite a bizarre, and I know it's a bizarre thing to do, particularly on that first time.
Yeah. Some people fall asleep in meditation, whether it's in a group meditation course or whether it's one-to-one. And, they pay their fee to come along and sit and learn in the course, and they're like, I pretty much just slept. And then we talk about that, okay, like, well, why is it that you're sleeping? Well, for a lot of people, it can be the way that you're actually sitting or laying down in meditation. If you lay down all the time and you do that to go to bed, the association's really strong. That obviously when you meditate and you lie down, just go to sleep. For some people, they're so exhausted, they don't ever stop in their lives. So when they finally take that break, the body just wants to sleep. It just wants to have that break. I'm sure you see that in physio as well, people just crashing out, when they finally get time to rest. Yeah. For some people, as I mentioned, in that experience of journaling or meditation, they are fearful. They're starting to recognize those negative thoughts. So there can be a lot of avoidance, avoiding the journal, avoiding meditation, feeling afraid to be able to sit with those thoughts. And so we kind of talk about, what that looks like and what approach might be safe and gentle to ease into that.
And you were saying before, you've been sort of talking around it, but what do we actually think the benefits are for people that sort of, even just doing a light amount of this? Like, what sort of things are people hoping to get from this? Or like, how does someone view, I guess, the benefit that they're getting for themselves?
Yeah, it was one of my teachers, one of my greatest teachers, Melanie Ryan. So I studied with her, I continue to study with her for 10, 12 years or so now. She runs the Institute of Applied Consciousness, and I studied meditation more.
Cool name.
Yeah, super cool. She's an incredibly cool woman. Cool doesn't even, just like next level. So she has a form of energy medicine called ITA, Integrated Therapeutic Alignment, which is like it kind of takes in lots of different approaches of looking at the physical body, the energetic body, so things like meridians that you would work with in acupuncture, chakras, how they connect to the physical body, the organs, and then also how that feeds into thoughts and the mind. So a really cool integrated approach to well-being, and also her form of meditation. And when I first started studying with her, she used the analogy of the energy gym, which I love, and I continue to use it today. And so it's kind of like, that if you wanted to get, let's say, abs or some sort of muscle in your body, defined, that you've got to go to the gym, and you can't just go this week and maybe next month. You've got to have consistency to it. You've got to have some sort of formula to be able to get those results.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so it's all about, repetition and consistency, and that's how you're going to get those results that you'll obviously see. There's no way around it. So it's the same with meditation and also with the journaling practice. It's like, let me give you an example. If you're sitting in meditation and you notice that you become distracted, as in you're sitting there and you're focusing on the breath or you're focusing on music and your thought pulls you away, when you become aware that that thought has distracted you and you come back to the breath, that's like one rep. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people will try meditation and be like, I'm so terrible at it. It doesn't work. I just got distracted. It was a shit meditation. But it's like, that shit meditation was the best workout of your life. That's it. Like, how many reps did you do? So it's not always pleasant. Sometimes it's hard work. And so whether you're doing that for 5 minutes a day, again, it's more about the repetition and the consistency. You can build in your workouts. You can become more strategic. And just like going to the gym, if you go intense for 3 months, you're going to get epic results. You can completely shred in 3 months. But then you also need to take a break because the body will tell you what kind of dietary and physical time it needs. And it's the same with meditation and regulating those thoughts and regulating the body as well.
So you can overtrain meditation, so to speak?
Well, I think with anything, you know, like some people I've worked with and even within myself, I've seen obsession kick in, you know, where you're like, oh, I just want to meditate for 2 hours. I'm going to Google this, YouTube, this past life regression. But again, the real key is doing something that's sustainable, you know? So again, like, you know, even in the past, I've wanted to get really fit. For 3 months, I've committed to a strong plan at the gym. I've got those results. But it took a lot of my mental capacity. You know, had to go to the gym, had to write the plan, had to eat certain foods. It wasn't really sustainable. But once I got to that kind of baseline within my body and I had a sort of baseline strength, I could tailor off to something that was more sustainable and focus on other goals within my life. So it's the same with meditation. You might do something intense like silent retreat, some kind of experience in Bali or whatever you want to do. But then what's actually sustainable and doable within your life? It's not the center of your life. For some people it is, going to the gym, doing meditation, but it's also a tool that enables you to be well. And when you're well, what would you like to achieve?
So I'm thinking about the gym
Does that
analogy.
make sense?
Yeah. I'm thinking about the gym analogy again, which is, you know, so I think most people know you go into the gym, you kind of know the result that you're going to get eventually, or at least the hope is you're going to get the 6-pack abs.
Yeah.
You're going to get the biceps for the beach or the toned back or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you're going to go for.
Strong core.
Yeah.
So you can walk upstairs and pick up your kid or whatever you want to have.
Which coming for you soon. But for that, running that same analogy, what is someone hoping to, you know, what's their abs equivalent for the spirit gym or the mind gym or the meditation gym?
Yeah. So the ability to regulate your nervous system is obviously key. So those two channels, as you know, between fight or flight, which is the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest. So being able to, through meditation, have a level of control over the breath and being able to control that pace of your nervous system can help you become more responsive as opposed to reactive, which means that I'm going to improve my emotional regulation. So let's say something happens, it completely triggers me. I'm like, oh my God, some shock, some panic in my life, some trauma with a big T or a trauma with a little t, or, you know, I've stuffed something up at work, my heart rate goes up, I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. I have now a tool or a skill to be able to regulate myself, to calm back down, to create safety within so that I can then respond. So the ability to regulate, the ability.
So you would use it as, you know, I'm literally having a moment right now. So I would use that as a tool for myself straight away to try and calm myself down.
Yeah, I think it becomes part of the more you practice it, the more it's just there for you. Like you don't have to think about, you know, flexing your bicep to lift something heavy, although you might. But it's suddenly you have this ability to regulate when you feel that, well, number one, you're increasing awareness around your body. So you'll notice more that you're having a reaction, you know, to something that's happening. Or my heart rate's gone up. I'm actually more aware that I'm reacting in this moment. So then because of that awareness, it gives you choice. So then you make the choice to change the way you respond. So in situations where I may have been more triggered or more emotional or in a negative way, suddenly I can calm myself much faster. I can be really pissed off with something and calm down within minutes, as opposed to, you know, the day, having a shit day and it taking that whole night's sleep, you know, so you can regulate much faster.
I used to think of it, so Dad is an avid golfer and he's sometimes good.
Your
sometimes,
dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And I always remember when I was younger, like if he'd have a bad game, he would just be moody.
Shit. Yeah.
Be generally, and like you could feel that there's a bit of a cloud around him and it would last for hours.
Yeah.
It was the one confusing thing for me as a kid. I was like, how are you in a mood for that long? For anything? Like what's going on there? And only through like things like meditation did it give me at least an insight as to how that is a feature. Because if the awareness isn't there, you're essentially just going to continue to bring out whatever's just going on that you're no longer taking any control of.
Totally. And it's a web. I was someone when I was younger, particularly in that 10 years when watching my brother go through trauma, there were periods where I would just be so angry and reactive. And then, that would affect the way that I think, because obviously your emotions and your thoughts are linked. So that would change the way that I think. That would then create some sort of impulsive behavior. And then I'd kind of go through that cycle again and again. So again, by practicing that emotional regulation, you don't have to feel stuck in that shitty mood. How many people I talk to, myself included, who, you're in a relationship, that's that person on the other end that you love, and they've done something to piss you off and you just want to come back together, but you can't, you're keeping them at an arm's distance, and that mood's got to linger. So it increases your awareness meditation to give you the choice to change your response.
So do you, can you differentiate at all between, if you're just in a mood versus someone that might be experiencing some anxiety or depression? Because I'm guessing it's a difficult delineation. Just as I'm thinking about it now, the depression side, not that I've really experienced it much at all, so I don't really understand it. To me, it appears as something that, the idea of meditation or just simply being able to change that mood doesn't seem like it fits as well. But I don't know, like from your experience, whether it does, or how do you see the difference between just being in a bad mood and having the awareness to change it versus having some form of anxiety or depression?
Yeah, sure. So I would say just being in a mood is about recognizing where you sit on the spectrum of health. So let's think of health like a traffic light: green, healthy, mostly in a healthy place, can do the things I want to do, eating well, sleeping well, kind of all systems mostly go. Then we move into amber, it's starting to, some warning signs picking up. Warning signs could be things like, becoming stressed, more irritable, less tolerant, maybe signs around the house, not doing what I could normally do, forgetting things, little spitfires, into that red zone where now suddenly I can see that there's something affecting me mentally. So more, now the stress is built too much that the pressure is overwhelming, and thinking about what an individual looks like in that unhealthy place. It could even be physical illness as well that kind of presents in that space. So I guess a key thing to think about the difference between being in a mostly a healthy space or being under stress and sort of having that mood is that you're going to come back to that mostly healthy place. If, for example, someone was experiencing, overwhelm or stress, and the key word is duration, for a period of time, that's when I would encourage someone to seek professional services to understand how long they've been experiencing anxiety. Anxiety leads into depression as well. So if someone's been experiencing anxiety for a long time, they're likely they could experience depression as well. They kind of do go hand in hand. So again, duration. And I think with meditation, it's going to give you that level of awareness to recognize, okay, well, what am I feeling within my body? Even just the signs, or like just noticing, my thoughts are racing, my body's cold, it's sweating, I can feel my heart beating, my breath is really, up and down, it's not deep and calm. Even that awareness can then bring that person to seek more professional services to get those tools. And again, at that more severe spectrum or in crisis, or if someone's been experiencing anxiety or depression and or other symptoms for a long period of time, that's when I would say consult your GP. Go talk to your GP, figure out next step, like if it's a referral to a psychologist or a psychiatrist to better understand the duration and the symptoms.
If someone's been in red light and they, and should hopefully get them out to green light eventually, is meditation in some way trying to keep them sort of moving between green and yellow light rather than making it to red light, or the analogy breaks down a little bit there?
No, I think it's like going, like if we think about it like the gym, even if you were, whether you're healthy, whether you're dealing with stress, like, dealing with pressure in that kind of amber zone, maybe you've taken on a challenge and you've kind of, it's the work is too much and suddenly it's kind of overwhelming. That can push you into that unhealthy place. you still want to go to the gym no matter where you sit. It's just much harder to go to the gym when you're unwell, whether physically or mentally. It's like you want to, you should, but you can't get there. That's when you want that professional support. Perhaps in that amber zone, that's when you want more accountability or support systems in place around friends and other supports as well. But ideally, you would meditate and you would go to the gym and you would try to do those things that keep you healthy, that toolkit, across that entire spectrum.
How do you see, you've worked with a lot of clients now, so from people that I'm guessing that have had some experience in things like meditation, journaling, to people that have had no experience at all, what do you sort of see? Is there a general transition that you see of people that slowly incorporate those habits from the beginning of that to after? Is there a bit of a pattern that you tend to see there?
Yeah, it's much harder to learn meditation when you're in a crisis or you're dealing with mental illness, because also it can be much harder to develop that trust with oneself, particularly around thoughts and the body. So you're going to learn meditation best when you are starting to put in support structures. A kind of a way to think about it, I was talking to someone about this just earlier this morning. Like when you're really stressed and you're not doing well, how likely are you to pick up a book, read the pages and understand the plot?
Yeah.
You're not. You're going to pick it up, turn to the page and read the same page 12 times and go, what the hell did I just read? Like your mind is elsewhere. Your body is not absorbing information. It can be similar with meditation and with journaling as well. So you want to have some stability. You want to develop some safety within the body so you can actually reflect, so that you can sit with yourself as well. So there's different styles of meditation I would recommend, like a guided meditation where somebody's speaking to you, giving you direction is going to be a much easier entry point than trying to just sit there and be aware of the mechanics that are happening through mindfulness. So guided meditation is a really great place to start. Once you're feeling, a little bit more stable, a bit more experience with that, learn the principles of mindfulness. Once you learn the principles of mindfulness, you don't need to listen to someone guiding you because you're aware of those different elements. You know a bit more, like you said about the gym, you know what to expect, whether that's the 5 senses of the body, what I'm seeing, smelling, tasting, whether that's the mental activity, what's likely, what's happening in my thoughts, what might I notice happening in the mental sphere, self-dialogue, images, movies, how do I process information? The body, so again, sensing the internal sensations within the body, the nervous system, the breath, and then that sense of connectedness, feeling connected to myself, but also feeling connected to the external environment. Sometimes with mental illness and when we're really stressed, we go inward and we're really focused inward on our experience because it's so overwhelming. And what we need is to also maintain a connection to the external reality to continue to participate.
So how do I know where to start? You said guided meditation is obviously a really good place to start. It's where I started as well. Is there ones that you sort of recommend? And, there might, as you say, there's some people that are very much just inward and probably need that outward experience. Is there, sort of, again, is it just sort of go in and just try things out? Or should you try and start based on some sort of knowing that actually I'm always internal, I should probably do a meditation that's external?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because not everyone's going to recognize that necessarily.
Yeah.
Like I'm really internalized because they're so internalized, they're not going to think about that. But then there's plenty of people who are purely externalized and haven't self-reflected or aren't even aware of what their body's feeling. So some people are equally fully externalized without any form of connection to themselves. So you definitely, if you're too internalized, you want to externalize and plug back in and participate in reality. If you're really in the matrix of reality, you also need to turn back around and have that connection, plug back into self. So that is just an interesting side note. But I guess we kind of, to come back to the start of this convo, if you're curious, what are you going to do? You're going to naturally start seeking. You're probably going to Google, meditation, mindfulness. There's so much on YouTube to play with. Some of it's so boring and you'll figure that out pretty quick. Some of it's boring and that's perfect. It's like relaxing. So I would say just Google around and kind of try different things on YouTube. Lots of people might read self-help books a lot of those self-help authors have meditations as well. So you can kind of look them up on YouTube. Popular apps, what app were you using?
Headspace.
Yeah, Headspace is super popular. Even searching through social media, like you'll find different things. So yeah, I would say just Google and just experiment. If you find a similar style that you like, go a bit deeper. If you have the time and the money and the space, try a workshop. Have a look what's in your local area. If you're feeling really, really great, go to Bali and try like some people do with yoga, try a 3-day meditation retreat, try a silent retreat. You'll love it or you'll hate it, but you'll learn something about yourself. Yeah.
I found that the guided, because as you say, it's such an easy entry. You can get free ones, they're like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something. But I also found that it's much easier when you've got also one or two other people also just starting off.
Yeah.
So that you don't feel like an idiot, that you don't know what's going on, and you got a couple other people that are sort of like, this is weird.
100%.
Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And so I do want to know as well, people that come your way, do they also have manifestations of like physical pain, right? As you sort of talked about that an important part of your story is sort of your brother who was in this chronic pain for 10 years. So part of you was probably trying to explore options to help him and people in similar situations.
Yeah.
So for someone that, again, is suffering from, whether it be a back pain or some sort of pain going on, have you seen, instances of the work that you do specifically help actual physical pain?
Yeah, even a couple of weeks ago. So I run a fortnightly meditation at the Humming Hive, just on Cambridge Street. And yeah, there is a woman who's a regular who comes along and she has chronic pain within her body. And I mean, it's an hour session from start to finish. Participants lie down, they put headphones on. It's actually a really cool studio. Headphones on. I guide them through a meditation over that 50 minutes or so, getting them to connect with the body, connect with the breath. And yeah, she will often tell me after that 60 minutes the improvement that she feels. But it's not just the improvement that she feels within her body, so that respite from the meditation, but also from my experience, the fact that she feels safe enough to sit for 60 minutes with the pain is huge. For a lot of people, there is, again, whether it's mental pain, horrible thoughts that you don't want to listen to, or physical pain, there's usually an avoidance or a wanting to Band-Aid it immediately. It's so overwhelming. So again, I think about past clients. I think about, this woman in particular who over time and discipline with that meditation practice has developed enough safety to be able to sit and become curious of that pain. That is where you'll really start to see change occur.
Have you had a similar experience where you've been in some version of physical pain?
Not like chronic pain, but kind of to a degree. For me, I've applied the meditation around my periods and different period pain that I've felt.
Yeah, right.
Not so much at the moment and in the last few years, but there's certainly times over my life where that pain was so bad. I couldn't work, I couldn't go to school. I never went to the doctors for any diagnosis or anything like that. But again, just being able to breathe through that pain and become curious to my body and start to think about what's happening for myself over that month. But again, being able to kind of use those techniques to regulate my thoughts. When you're feeling pain, if you've ever felt pain in your body, it changes the way you think. Your tolerance shifts really fast. You start thinking differently. You don't give a shit about some things anymore. It's amazing how quick you see that mind-body connection, and then obviously the emotions as well. So it sort of gave me control to be the pain is here, but actually I don't have to let those negative thoughts run away, and I don't have to let those thoughts result in impulsive behaviors around that.
It's funny because not until I've done a Vipassana course, and
I thought you were going to say you had your period, but
no periods for me. If I had, that'd be a little bit wild. Although it is funny you say that because just about every gal that I know, period pain sounds insane. It sounds it's crazy.
Pain is so subjective, right? But it can be pretty gnarly.
But it just seems like most gals that I seem to speak to have very uncomfortable times with it, and you just I'd have no idea. Right?
Yeah.
You just kind of have to
you can sort of see where it sits on the scale of how painful, because obviously it's subjective, but like how disabling it is.
Yeah,
You know, when the pain is at its worst.
But back to not me having a period, but having done like one of the Vipassana courses, it's the only time though that I had at least some sort of recognition that pain and your I guess experience of it, there is something to be curious about there, because up until that point, to me, it is complete an avoidance. I mean, even now, it's not like I'm a great meditator at all, so I have an avoidance of pain right now. It's it's not like that's gone. But it was the first chance opening, at least having a recognition of, wait a second, me sitting in pain because I'm in the same position for a long period of time is something to be curious about in and of itself. And in doing so, the sensation or the experience of it changes.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's some sort
quite
of
amazing, isn't it?
It's a very bizarre phenomenon that goes on, which then makes you go, if that can happen, what else is going on? What else is worth being curious about? And it sort of, at least I found, pain was really a good access avenue to maybe going, other types of pain are probably worthwhile being curious about. Again, this is coming from someone that is not doing that well at all now.
We're again, like we think about the gym analogy, it's like, people are like, oh, you must be so good at meditation. And I'm like, who's so good at anything? It fluctuates over a course of your life. I think when people say you're so good at meditation, what they probably assume is a discipline that you do it and practicing regularly.
Do you have a spirit abs?
Spirit ab? Yeah, I've got strong spirit abs. Hell yeah. But like I meditate, and like even last week I had just shittest meditation. It was like so frustrated, distracted, didn't want to do it. And then, the other night I went to meditate when I was going to bed and just fell asleep, woke up with a track on it, like I don't even know what time. Like, it's just like going to the gym, like sometimes you're good, sometimes you're not, sometimes you want to, sometimes you don't. It's more, understanding the mechanics. Again, understanding for change, if we talk about, points of change, why? Like, why do you want to go to the gym? Like, what do you want to achieve? Strength? Do you want to look good? Like, what's your goal? Same with meditation. What do you want from it? Otherwise, you're kind of going into it not knowing why you're doing it in the first place. A. B, not knowing if you're doing it well and why that is, because we might not have the principles of mindfulness. And so you're less likely to stick with it because you don't know why you're doing it or what it's doing in the first place.
So how often do you have periods where you completely stop? Do you have periods where you completely stop?
Yeah, plenty. I couldn't tell you. Like, it's over the course of my life, it changes all the time. Like, probably in the last year, I've been doing less, like I would do a lot of Melanie's meditations, and they are still guided, even though I don't necessarily need to follow her voice. I know how to move those meditations through. So I can guide myself through. And again, they're active meditations. So it's like you're moving energy through different points of the body. So your mind is quite active. And there's amazing benefits when the mind is distracted in meditation. What else comes up? So sometimes I go through phases of like doing her meditation every day for, 3 months. At the moment, what I'm really enjoying is just stillness. I'll just kind of walk on the beach. I'll walk with nature. I'll try to, no podcast, no phone, and just actually be present. And I'm really enjoying what I'm feeling within my mind, within my body. And that's my form of meditation at the moment, just kind of connecting to nature.
It's pretty cool. The other stuff that you've also been looking into or doing, the ITA, which you can spell out what that means.
Integrated Therapeutic Alignment.
Yep, cool. Just didn't want to get that wrong.
Yeah.
So that's something, again, that I have no idea about what that is, how that works. And for someone, again, that might be looking for a different way to solve their problem, like what is it that exactly offers?
So it depends if you're wanting to receive ITA, so energy medicine work, or if you're wanting to study it. For me, I was curious about both. Why I love ITA so much is that Melanie, who's the founder of ITA, she's very experienced and has trained under many masters across her lifetime. I think it's like 40 years experience. She's a 4th generation energy worker. Their family hail from the Canary Islands. So again, she's been around these different concepts, philosophies, ideas for a very, very long time. So it's great to learn from someone who has the experience. But ITA, as I mentioned, it's an integrated approach. So for a lot of people getting curious about alternative health and spirituality, they might pick up a book about chakras. They might pick up something about meridians or go to acupuncture and wonder what the needles are doing. Her system integrates a lot of this theory into one place and shows how it connects. So for me, it was like a lot of the research I'd done independently finally came together in that modality. And that's what I found so powerful. If you weren't to study it, but you were to be on the receiving end, it might look similar to something like Reiki or somatic body work, where you're lying on the massage table on your back, shoes off, calm, relaxed, eyes closed, eyes open. That's completely up to you. And the practitioner, myself, would be walking around that person, kind of touching different acupressure points. So similar spots that you would feel in acupuncture, but also hand slightly off the body, moving energy through different patterns. Now, that's probably where the skepticism can come in. Well, what are you feeling? I don't see any energy, or I don't see any light. How do you know that you move that hand in that sequence, it's purging some sort of energy? Well, if you don't believe it, unfortunately, you're going to have to experience it to try it and to see what benefits that has for you.
So someone that is skeptical can still receive benefits from it. It's not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had a guy I worked with for 3 years. He used to come almost every single month. He came for energy medicine alignment. So he'd lay on the table for 45 minutes. I'd work the sequence. And there's different sequences or different movements, just like you do a meditation, for different outcomes. Different pressure points for different ailments, connects to different organs. He used to tell me he would just sleep. He's like, I had a good sleep again. And he came back for 3 years, almost every month, every 2 months, you know. But again, like, there's no way he was ever going to,
Can't put a price on a good sleep, though.
I was like, man, you're paying a lot to come here to rest, but like, hey, if that's what you need. But again, seeing those improvements. Other clients, it's been much, much faster in seeing their results, whether that was pain through the physical pain through the shoulder that, was gone after a few sessions, high anxiety where the individual no longer had anxiety after 6 months. It's different for everyone. It's different for everyone because everyone holds different patterns over different durations as well, and different openness to change too.
So what's, when you're doing this, what are you experiencing as the practitioner? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, so for me, the most common things that I would feel, number one, is the energy. So again, when you think about energy, breath is energy. So for someone going, what would energy feel like? Well, you can feel your breath moving and the interaction between the body. You can feel the heat from the breath. You can feel the density of the breath. When I first started working, I didn't really feel so much. The more that I practiced meditation, the more I practiced the energy work, the more I started to sense the energy systems, I guess. So I feel over different parts of the body like a different density, like a different thickness, in that kind of air pressure, I guess, in a way. Sometimes I'll see a double hand. So I'll see my hand and then I'll see another hand underneath that, but in light form.
Right.
Yeah, which is really...
Your hand?
Yeah, it's just like my hand, but like my hand also next to my hand in light. So like a light form of my hand, just moving in sync with my hand.
And you haven't taken mushrooms beforehand?
No. And it's not always there, but for the most part, it usually is. Other times I'll see I'll be working on the hand and I kind of, again, eyes are relaxed. I'm sort of not looking anywhere with too much intensity, but just kind of scanning the body and the systems and just kind of observing the movement in that individual. And I'll see like a point of light or something, a different color kind of light up over another part of the body, in which case I'll kind of move that communication over there and begin to work. Sometimes when I'm working with someone, first of all, I should clarify before I go into a session, I'm always checking myself, regulating myself, just noticing how I feel, noticing what's on my mind, noticing, again, what sensations I'm like feeling in my body emotionally, physically, and that helps me kind of claim my own experience before I sit across from someone.
Because I was going to say, yeah, if your energy is different based on like your own internal, does that dramatically affects what you can do as a practitioner at that time?
Yes, it does, because if I'm really distracted, well, I'm not going to be able to read the subtle cues of that body in the same way that if I was really, not in the right headspace right now, I wouldn't maybe pick up that you weren't having a good day, or that your posture was low, or because I'm not tuning into you. So again, the more regulated you are, and aware of yourself in the space and how you're experiencing you, when I come into the room and I see you today, I'm more aware of your physical presence, your demeanor, and those subtle cues. So
That's all right. That's a really good point, because essentially more energy that you've got available to put out into the world that isn't being drained by you. Of course, you can pick up on more things going out. So the example of that, when people get home and they're pretty tired, and as you say, you're not picking up on your partner's cues or something that's going on there. What are you doing when you're doing that little check-in for yourself? Is it just a brief meditation, or what's that process look like for you?
yeah, I guess it's a form of a brief meditation. If meditation is that form of tuning into oneself, I collect information about myself in the simplest form. I'll notice my breath. Like, is my breath up here? Is it deep down below in my belly? I'll use that to kind of get information about how regulated my nervous system is. Am I in fight or flight, and a little bit anxious, thinking about work things, to-do lists, or even something more stressful? Or am I actually calm and safe and therefore more present in the moment? So I collect that information. Whether I'm journaling or just reflecting, I'll just notice. I'll just observe what's been on my mind, the quality of my thinking. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it fast? Is it slow? What are the kind of themes that are crossing my mind? Any narratives that have been on my mind that are influencing me? And then with the physical, my body, with my thoughts, I'll just be like, what is it I'm actually feeling emotionally right now in this moment? Kind of neutral, you know? I feel pleasant right now, quite curious, happy, in this space to be talking about things that I love, So kind of just tuning into myself. What that means is when I then stand across from another person, like whether that's you right now or a client who's, ready for some ITA, I can feel their nervous system, because suddenly my body is responding to a fear response. I'm like, oh, I feel a bit nervous, anxious. No, I don't. I don't have any reason to feel nervous or anxious. So empathetically, I'm starting to tune into the other person's response.
So that check-in allows you to quickly filter out whether or not that's your feeling or someone else's feeling that you're picking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when that person's laying on the table, I'm in that homeostasis, I like to think, that kind of neutral place, I can observe and feel that person and how they're moving. The movement of their nervous system is going to trigger an emotional response in me, or a physiological response in my nervous system, which might give me an indication of the quality or the direction of thoughts they might be having. And more interestingly, there's been times where, as I'm working with that individual, I see different images come up in my mind, different themes, different movies or different symbols. And then as I communicate that with the person, I'm reading into them, whether that was, seeing someone as pregnant, and then that person actually having, a recent miscarriage, or seeing a movie, seeing an image of a father and a daughter, embracing, and then talking about reconciliation with that client and something they've experienced, in that last week or recently. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of understand at that level through my experience the physiological response in nervous systems and how we do feel people. I mean, of course we do. But, yeah, interestingly, there's some kind of exchange as well between those mental patterns and that mental category too. So the more I work with people, the more regulated I am, the more I can collect not only information about me, but also information about them. And that's where sometimes I think people get a bit spooked, because it's like, oh, it's a bit witchy poo, like the psychics, the clairvoyants, how can they know that? How could she read that about my life? Well, that's how we're kind of connecting and collecting information about your systems at that time.
Is there something, again, for the skeptic out there, again, even of course I'm to some degree going to be a skeptic as well, because is there a way that's being, this transmission of information, has this been measured in some way, or is your understanding of it that it is simply just almost an osmosis of energy? Like, how do you sort of think about it from the rational side, or is it maybe not the domain of the rational side?
No, there's a lot of research out there about, human interaction. There's even some of it, some research around, telepathy and some of these, these topics. Like, there's plenty of research that exists if you want to deep dive down. Again, if you're really skeptical, you're gonna look into these different journals and the amount of participants and when, and pull them apart anyway. So for me, yeah, I do get curious and I do read some of those journals about it, but also just through my own application, I recognize what I feel. The cool thing about being part of the Institute as well is that because I'm also surrounded by people who are working similar modalities, it's really interesting to see that many of us have the same experience. So even within that group, and, obviously having a background studying psychology, I like to not say anything and just see what's real. Like, oh, how do you experience that? How do you notice that? And then go, shit, like, we're actually experiencing the exact same thing, or we're witnessing light in the same way. Like, isn't that just incredible? Like,
yeah, super incredible.
Like, I'm like,
yeah,
what on earth? And actually, interestingly, the Institute for Melanie Ryan, they have done some studies with a couple of the universities around case studies and people experiencing the health benefits of meditation and ITA.
Have you heard of, I'm sure you had, but sort of surrogacy treatment or surrogate treatment, which is where parents, you can have a kid in the room.
Like, you mean like
parents,
surrogate?
As in, sorry, no, it's more as in you use the parent as a proxy to treat a kid.
Okay.
So there's a video from a guy that I was recently at a workshop called Square One, the guy called Brendan Smith, who learnt this methodology or system from a group out of America, and he's the only teacher of it in Australia. So I went to that, and it sort of came up there, and I was sort of blown away by it, because he was basically saying that if you've got a 2-year-old or 3-year-old that you want to do some nervous system reorganization, you can do it, but of course those kids can't follow direction. So what you can do is whatever the problem you're finding on the kid is, you can just match what you do on the treatment to the parent. And ideally, if the kid's sitting on the lap or there's some sort of physical touch there, you'll transmit the treatment across to the kid. And so he showed me the example, which was his kid, for instance, which he had to turn in foot every time I was walking. So this is like a 2-year-old, I think, maybe 1.5. Turned in foot, walking every time, which is usually a bit of a reflex that's still hanging around. And so he did a bunch of this work, just sat the kid on the lap, did work to himself based on what he saw from there, sat the kid back down, ran again, foot going out straight.
Incredible.
It's just very cool.
I love it, because it's kind of like, practice what you preach, which I love, because if I think back to that tough decade for myself, feeling helpless, I don't feel helpless anymore. I feel very empowered, because I also believe, what did you call it? Surrogate
treatment.
Surrogate treatment. I mean, another version is like co-regulation. Like, sometimes a client can sit with me, they don't want to change, they don't give a shit, necessarily about it, but they're showing up anyway. But even if we don't do any activity, even if they're spinning the same narrative, they come because they're also getting co-regulated. Being able to sit with someone who's breathing calmly, they start to mimic you. And so sometimes people just like to come along to the sessions, hopefully that's not the reason why, but just because it's actually, they're sitting in a safe environment, they're actually leaving feeling regulated, feeling calm, feeling pleasant for an hour of respite. And that's amazing training on the nervous system as it is.
Have many of your clients, whether that be from workshops or not, have they experienced any, I imagine as a parent, to do some of this work, again, just from the idea from the surrogate, but just if your kids are around you, you're doing this work on yourself, do you see a change in your kids in your family life. And
Yeah.
like, again, the obvious example is if, like, again, just use my old man, but if he walks into a room and he's had a bad day of golf, everyone knows about it without him saying anything. Like, there's an obvious change. There's like, you notice straight away, whether it be the feeling of the room, whatever it is. And so I can only imagine that the opposite also is true.
Of course. Like, and I don't think it's one thing, but like when you take control of your life again, you don't feel the need to force or change others, because you just notice that you just have to live what you want to be by demonstration, and that has a profound effect. So, whether that's a family member or my partner who's frustrated, I don't need to try to get him to do some sort of therapy or you should do meditation. He doesn't have to do shit. He's his own person, right? But I need to do it because that's what I want to do. And the results from that mean that I'm more responsive. I'm more aware of my communication. I'm aware of his subtle energy. And, in a space, we're always watching with our eyes. We're always sensing, noticing that other person. How much we pick on that's nonverbal. So again, you just need to take control of yourself, live what you want to be in that moment, and you're going to be less reactive. When you're less reactive, you're not going to, what's the word, like reaffirm or like that person's narrative and kind of keep them, in that particular emotional state. It's kind of like you're neutral. So then they're able to see themselves more easily. And when they can see themselves more easily, change becomes possible, because they're like, oh, hold on a minute. She's not pissed off with me. Actually, yeah, I am in this place,
I look forward to now as well as I'm going back. I'm trying to be like, do I pick up something from my partner's state as well? Just do I pick up on, like, can you pay more attention, or is this something that, like, even I can do right now, someone that has no idea how to practice any of this really, besides from maybe a little bit of meditation? Are there other things that I can do to try and hone in on that skill, or is it really just, again, that self-awareness practice and sort of building into that?
Practice. For some people, they may be more vigilant to subtle cues, and that can come from negative environments as well. Like if someone in your environment was dangerous or put you on eggshells, you're more likely, or you got told off a lot, you're more likely to be more hyper vigilant. So some people will already be super well developed in that capacity. It's then using it to their benefit and not from a fear response. So I've worked with plenty of people who can read the most subtle cues because they're so used to scanning their environments in an anxious way. For others, it's just a matter of practicing that skill set. The more aware you become of yourself and understand your own mechanics, of course, then you can understand it in another.
With some of the stuff that I was doing with Square One in particular, it's, again, funny to mention that, just making my own lines or connecting the dots between what you're saying. With some of the stuff that we do, or I do now with Square One, it basically tries to look at whether the nervous system is organized or disorganized. And we can actually use certain triggers to try and bring out a disorganized state in order to then provide safety signals to the nervous system, so that it can then sort of almost wipe the deck a little bit, provide a bit of safety in places that it was feeling disorganized. And one of the interesting ones I find is when we're using eyes, for instance, as a bit of a trigger, and you get someone to do
follow with the eyes,
or VOR, which is basically you're looking at a single target, you're turning your head whilst keeping your eyes on the target at all times. And as you increase someone's speed of that, a lot of the time when someone's disorganized, you'll find that as they turn their head, their eyes look out to the side.
Fascinating.
They can't help it.
Yeah.
And the current explanation behind it is that, and it seems to be backed up by a lot of the people's stories that I've worked with so far, is that when your head's turning, some incident has likely happened, whether it be an impact or some minor, whether it be big T trauma or small T trauma, as you put it, that makes the nervous system, or at least the brain, recognize that there was threat over here. And as I'm turning my head, I need to make sure that I'm clear, like not going to be attacked or there's some fear response going on there. And you can do a reorganization, which is, again, using things like head position and breaths and some isometrics, and then you can repeat that, and all of a sudden they can maintain eye contact with the finger.
That's awesome.
So it's a very cool one, but it sort of, again, reminds me of, as you're sort of saying, like things can be sort of held onto. I haven't the title of the book, The Body Keeps the Score,
Yeah.
is
It's a classic.
is the only thing I can refer to the title, because I haven't actually read it, but I'm like, I at least have read it around it enough to know, and to now experience in clinic that, again, an impact from 10, 20 years ago can still leave a mark that we can check and chase straight away. And you can get a response in the body that makes you go, well, that story matches.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds, this is why, as I've gotten into even just this new state of treatment, I've found that this is why it was important to like speak with people like yourself, because these little avenues for understanding how it is that we come to be, and therefore how our injuries and problems sort of come to arise. There's obviously so many different pathways to try and like unravel these. And the difficult part is knowing, well, exactly how do you start to do the unraveling. But at the same time, you know, you've got to start somewhere. And so far as I can tell, the mind and working inwardly is probably a pretty good place to start. So for someone right now and sort of around Perth, potentially otherwise as well, I think you've even got some groups stuff that you do as well. What sort of stuff do you do that people might even be able to join as well?
So, I mean, if you're curious about meditation and the style of meditation that I do, and you want something that's like low investment and low commitment, come to the Humming Hive every fortnight. Or even if it's not myself, there's other great practitioners who have different modalities of meditation and hypnosis and things like that, and you can come and experiment. It's like a very safe way to begin your journey and sort of experience things for the first time. And all the practitioners there, you know, you can come and talk to us after. Tell us, you know, what you experience, seek more resources from there. Otherwise, different courses that I put up, different meditation courses. I guess I'm doing more in the not-for-profit space at the moment. So most of my courses are aimed towards the hospitality industry, working with Healthy Mind Menu. But again, Melanie Ryan, my teacher, she's got a whole bunch of online meditations and courses every single year. And my training does come from her. So she's also go direct to the source, you know. If you're really curious, she's a great place to start with lots of books and resources too.
Just to quickly hinge back on the hospitality sector, you're saying the bit not-for-profit there. Mm-hmm. Why the hospitality sector?
So my brother who passed away was a chef. Yeah. So, I guess for me it wasn't saying that the hospitality industry causes suicide. That was a huge call. But my curiosity was what aspects of hospitality work, particularly, I mean, through his context, back of house as a chef, could exacerbate mental health, mental illness. And because he was so passionate about being a chef, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. He was like 15 and already like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm locked into my career. Could you imagine the envy? I'm like, I'm still finding my way, and he knows exactly what he wants from life. I was like, holy shit, that's so cool. You know, he was like a 12-year-old opening up pies and adding in extra gourmet flavors and sealing the top on from the petrol station. Like, I was like, what? Why do you know to do that? Can you do that to mine too? How cool. So it also, you know, with my combination of marketing background and interest in the fields of mental health, I wanted to use that to kind of advocate and improve that industry. And that for me was a healing piece, but also a gift back as well.
Where can people find some of the stuff more on that
side?
So
we have different forms of free online training there. We run mental health first aid workshops. That's what I run, the mental health first aid, and also kind of 101 workshops. Healthy Mind Menu is the name of the charity, healthymindmenu.au or at Healthy Mind Menu on Instagram. It'll all link back to our different resources.
And you have a podcast for it as well?
We do. Back of house, front of mind. So cool.
Cute.
I didn't
nice
come up
title.
with that. It was a
Good
comms
title.
manager at the time, and I was like, damn, that's good. Back of house, front of mind.
Yeah, smashed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, I really wanted to thank you again for your bit of time today. Soon to be mum, doing lots of cool things. I just wanted to finish up, probably the last thing is all the work that you're doing at the moment. We briefly touched on the fact that, you know, there's maybe a little bit of a general vision of where you hope it sort of goes to at some point. And I thought I might just let you sort of maybe finish off with where you sort of hope some of your work ends up, and if you don't know, that's cool as well.
Yeah, so I guess with the meditation and things that I do, I hope that it elevates the work of my teacher Melanie Ryan as the sort of holder of that energy and the incredible courses that she does. May it reach many, many people and have that impact. And so I'm here to sort of advocate for ITA and also meditation through there. And then with Healthy Mind Menu, just having large impact, reaching as many people across the hospitality industry to give them access to free resources, so they can upskill, so they can train, so that they can have a long, sustainable career. Like, go into the industry knowing what those challenges are so you can be prepared. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure at some point in the near future, I'll be trialing out the
Hey.
ITA just to see what the hell it's all about. And then maybe we'll have to have another chat about it.
The level of trust you've had to come into this without experiencing it, I think you're sold.
You're a very good salesman, so yeah, not too bad. But no, thank you again today, Paisley, and best of luck with everything, and hopefully we chat again soon.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You.
Nice.